Welcome back to The Next Film. Today we're talking to my friend and executive producer and investor on both of my feature films, Jeffrey Weber. Jeff has had quite the journey, which we'll dig into later, from singing commercial jingles since back in the 70s to a long career on Wall Street, retiring at 51, right?
53, actually.
53. And then pivoting back into acting and filmmaking, and has been crushing it. Jeff has built an impressive resume, but I really want to focus on how you have built and collaborated with specific filmmakers over many films. You have executive produced Sav Rogers' award-winning documentary, Chasing Amy, which premiered at Tribeca and then went on to do incredible things. EP now his upcoming film, Pancake Skank, alongside the Duplass brothers. Pretty cool. Yep. You're filming that next month, right?
In 2 weeks, we're filming in Las Vegas.
Yeah, the short version, because it's going to be a proof of concept before the feature.
Yes.
Yeah, very could. You have EP'd both my features, Escaping Ohio, this upcoming Candy, which you also EP'd the short film version of it before Candy, and then the Besties Make movies. So Triple Threat, Stacey's most recent film, Seaside, and Mara's most recent film, Snare, which we already had on the show. You also play Frank in my feature film, Escaping Ohio. You play, most likely are going to be playing Lenny in the upcoming Candy. Yep. Got to send you that role. And then, you've also been doing a lot more acting in terms of you were in Billions, you were in Seaside, just shot yesterday on Snare, right?
Yep.
How did that go?
So it was great. It was really fun. Yep. And I will say my interest in producing really came out of a desire to be an actor. And it was my acting coach who said you could do auditions, you could do self-tapes, or you could produce your own movies and have roles in them. Yeah,
so let's just start there, because you started on, commercials and singing jingles, right, when you were a kid?
Yep.
The Burger King commercial?
Burger King commercial. So from 1976 to 1983, I sang in all of the He's the Marvelous Magical Burger King. I was the voice of Hershey. There's nothing like the face of a kid eating a Hershey bar.
I didn't know that.
That was actually my most famous jingle that played for really the late 70s through kind of the early to mid 80s. I sang in hundreds of commercials, and I've been a member of the Screen Actors Guild for over 50 years.
Wow.
So it was my beginning.
Yeah.
And then my voice changed.
Okay.
So I ended up going to college, graduate school, and then ended up on Wall Street and ultimately became the president of York Capital and then a vice chairman. And then in 2018, I decided to retire. I was sitting at home with 100 hours of free time with my wife saying that, for better or worse, but not for lunch. And I knew I needed to do something. And here I was in, 2018, a member of the Screen Actors Guild. I thought, you know what, I'll be an actor. Why not? And I had really not thought about it for decades.
Okay.
But I thought, Fred Thompson was a senator, and then he became the DA on Law and Order. How hard could that really be? Now, of course, very hard, obviously. I've subsequently found out. But what I did was I took my headshots from my hedge fund website.
Nice.
And went on Actors Access, went on casting networks, on Backstage. And, of course, nothing happened. Crickets. It was dead. And then suddenly I saw a casting notice for Billions. So I told my wife, I said, I'm going to tell them who I really am. And of course, she was like, you're an idiot. You are going to tell, at the time I was the vice chairman of York Capital as a transition from being the full-time president to, ultimately retiring, to make clients comfortable and to sort of be around the business, but not really working in the business. And she was like, why are you doing this on a blind website to a, probably 25-year-old casting director? You are going to tell them that you're the vice chairman of a $20 billion hedge fund. So I did, and they cast me immediately, actually. Turns out people read blind submissions. Yep. Who knew? And I ended up with a recurring featured background role as a board member of Sailors in season 4. But I had no lines. And the guy next to me on the board, who I had seen, for several episodes, had one line. Now, I didn't and I thought to myself, I can do that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize he probably had self-tapes and representation and was sort of specifically hand-chosen for that one role. So I decided I need, a manager or an agent. And I was subsequently introduced through a friend to a large agency, and they ended up having me meet like 12 different, agents that they had, voiceover, film, sort of everybody. And, at sort of the end of this full day, they said, "We love you. You are phenomenal. But, there's like some craft associated with acting. You haven't really done this in 30 years. We're going to get you an acting coach." So they ended up getting me an acting coach. And this is Doreen Elliott, who's a very well-known voiceover coach in New York. And I started working with her, and she ended up putting me into an acting class, the studio, as well as doing improv at the Pit. So I was doing sort of all the skills. I'm doing improv classes, I'm doing acting classes, I'm doing voiceover work. And sort of, I would say several months into sort of our private lessons and kind of going through, what it means to be an actor, building a reel and a website. She said, "Why don't you just produce your own stuff?" So I ended up in my acting class. I looked around, and really there was a spectacular actor, Mars, who has been on your show. So Mars had done a short film called Jones with Stacey Malton, and they're partners in Besties Makes Movies. So I ended up talking to Mars, which actually took some courage because Mars was very popular in the acting class.
Yeah, they're very popular in general.
Right, absolutely, and a phenomenal actor, and everybody sort of knows Mars. And at the beginning of every class, they're all talking to them. So I went to Mars and I said, I need to build a reel. Why don't we do a short together? Introduce me to Stacey Malton. You'll write it because Mars is a writer. Stacey will direct it, and I'll produce it. Now, I didn't realize if you tell an actor, I'll put up all the money to produce a film, that is,
stars
really
in our
quite
eyes.
right, exactly, quite an offer. Needless to say, they were very interested. And the funny thing is, I told Mars, why don't we do something like a sugar daddy? I'm much older than Mars. Mars is a very attractive person. Mars said, I'll think about it. Ended up coming back with, okay, this is what we're going to do. The script was Appetite, which we later made and was in like 20 film festivals. Came back and said, no, this is what we're going to do. You're in a marriage, and you're going to a swinger club because your wife wants to have an open marriage. Your wife is going to end up with a woman, and you're going to end up with me back in your apartment, but we're not going to have sex. I'm like, okay. And it turned out to be like a fabulous short. But I think that, one of the things about collaborating and being with creative people is I feel like I want the filmmaker, the writer, the director, it to really be their creative vision. I don't want to get in the way of somebody's sort of idea of what this film should be.
Yeah, well, I obviously appreciate that about you. Working together now is I feel like you chime in because you have great ideas, especially when it comes to your character too, but you really do just like give trust when you find, that person or that vision that you believe in, and you put your faith in us. But and then that's how we soon met, was through Mars. I met Mars when they were on the film festival route for Jones, with my very first short that I ever did. And then when I went to do my Escaping Ohio Seed and Spark crowdfunding, I randomly got an associate producer from you.
Right. So I think that, when I think about the people I've collaborated with, they really have come out of that acting class and have been people that Mars has introduced me to. So in fact, I received a random email from Mars saying, my friend Jessica Michael Davis is doing this Seed and Spark short, Escaping Ohio. You should take a look at it. And I ended up being an associate producer of your short. And I have to say, that was a great experience, and that led us to doing Escaping Ohio, the feature.
Yeah, well, I remember, because obviously this was a couple years ago now, or a few, but I remember reaching out to you when I was going to do the feature, having no idea like how much you would actually be interested in it in terms of both creatively or financially. I think I was just reaching out to be like, hey, I'm doing this thing. Because the Seed and Spark was such a low amount for that short. So I think the associate producer, was like $500.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It was $500.
Yeah. So when I reached out for the feature, and I let you know, I sent you an email about, the creative, the overall storyline, like when I would be shooting it. I mean, you can chime in if there's something I'm forgetting. I feel like I just kind of gave you an overall outlook on what I was doing. And I might have told you, did I tell you right away what the like perks were, like the different price, or maybe it was just on the WeFunder itself because I was doing the funding on the WeFunder. But I think I sent you the site and you were like, I'd be interested in looking at these producing credits. And I'm like, oh, that's
and
a
being
lot
your
more.
lead investor. So you needed a lead investor.
Oh, yes. I forgot about that. Thank
so
you.
what happened
There's
was,
been a lot
first of all,
since then.
but there's sort of more to the story, which is, I think first of all, I think you're actually a very special person. And I think that when I look at the people who I've collaborated with, I think that, I've identified people who are extremely talented, who I trust with projects. So
I appreciate
you're
that.
definitely within that sort of group of people that I want to do sort of multiple projects with.
I'm not only honored by you, but I'm also honored, like the people that you have collaborated with, like Sav, Stacey Mars, like incredible people I feel honored to be with. So I appreciate that.
Well,
but
thank you.
Continue. Sorry to interrupt.
But you may or may not remember, but when you made the short, you had invited me to the Montclair Film Festival.
Yes.
Where we had the short, right? You ended up, I think you're actually an incredible businesswoman. Is one of, I think, you're obviously a talented writer, director, actor, but, you came in really under budget on your short during COVID. And that was really impressive. And I have to say, I liked the short. That it really, to me, it was a combination of short but almost a sizzle. Mm-hmm. And actually, when we did Betty Bites Back, that's really a sizzle. Right? Yeah. That's really a sizzle for candy.
Yeah.
And I think that, to me, your hunger, your desire to both leave Ohio to have a creative life outside of Ohio, using Escaping Ohio as that vehicle, was very, very impressive. And you did raise enough money for the short. Mm-hmm. So, in fact, your pitch, I actually think there was tremendous bravery in basically cold calling a retired hedge fund manager who you didn't really know that well to say, hey, can you put up some of the money, or would you think about it? And I'm doing a WeFunder. Mm-hmm. And I think I came back with you, and you said, but the way you do a WeFunder is you need somebody to write about the film. You need a lead investor.
I need a lead investor.
What do you even think about that? And I think I came back and said, I'll be your lead investor, but I'd like to be in the movie. Yeah.
And then we had lunch, and then you said yes the next day, which was incredible.
Right. Yeah. Which was really, really fun and just a great experience.
Yeah. Well, and then that also, I think just that experience in general, and I have a quote from you somewhere that you said or wrote down that said, I exceeded your expectations.
Absolutely. 100%.
And I have that somewhere on my website. But it seems like that's kind of been our collaboration, and your collaboration with the other filmmakers as well, is we continue to like build upon this thing that feels really nice, because it seems like we're both, growing as both filmmakers and actors together as we keep building our films.
Yeah.
So what makes you say yes to being an executive producer on a project?
Well, I think it's really the filmmaker.
Okay.
Right? To me, it comes down to the person. And a great example of that is I'm a co-executive producer of MASHED. So MASHED is a mini-series that Stacey Malton and Mars did, Besties Makes Movies. And the theme of it is vaginismus. And they almost didn't, I don't even think they pitched me on it. I just heard they were doing this. And I had to Google vaginismus. I had no idea what it was, nor did I feel terribly connected to it. Not that I'm not empathetic, but it's just not something I have any experience with.
Right.
But I felt like this was an important project. Madge, who wrote it, was committed to doing it. Stacy was directing it. Mars was in it. And I just wanted to be a part of their universe. And the way I think about it is there's a handful of filmmakers that I don't want to do one film, I want to do all your films. Right. And that's how I've felt about Stacy and Mars. That's how I feel about you. That's how I feel about Sav Rogers.
And well, first of all, where did you meet Sav? I'm not sure if I know.
So Sav, actually, I met through Mars.
Oh, really?
Crazy, yeah. So what happened was Mars said, I've got this producer friend, Carrie Radigan. You need to meet Carrie because Carrie's working on projects and you could collaborate. Maybe there's a role for you in some of her projects. So we had lunch together and Carrie said, Jeff, I get it, but I'm working on no narrative projects right now, but I am working on a documentary. Would you take a look at it? And I really was not thinking about doing a documentary or investing in a documentary. And subsequently, I've invested in several. But I thought to myself, you know what? I can learn about the documents, right? The structure of investing in film, the 20% return, the 50-50, the sort of what do the documents look like?
Yeah.
So I said, send me the pitch deck, the documents, the information. And Carrie had sent me Sav's TED Talk.
It's really compelling.
So
I've
incredible
seen it.
TED Talk. Now, in Sav's TED Talk, Sav talks about he was interested in Chasing Amy as a film because Chasing Amy saved his life because he grew up in Kansas, a closeted trans man, had never seen queer role models, but was a huge Ben Affleck fan because of Daredevil, and he collected Daredevil comics. And Ben Affleck is in Chasing Amy, and that's how he found Chasing Amy. Well, it turns out I'm a huge comic book collector, and specifically, I collect Daredevil.
Oh.
So including Daredevil April 64, Daredevil 1, through number 4, which is the last one in like a yellow costume. So all the early ones through the Frank Millers into the 80s. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to invest in this film. And I have to say that this has been really, truly one of the great experiences of my life. And if I never make another movie other than Chasing Amy, I'm done. This is just a great movie.
Yeah, it's so good.
And it took like 5 years. And I knew Sav before he transitioned. And it's just, I'm just so proud of that movie.
Yeah.
Premiered at Tribeca, over 70 film festivals.
It's beautiful.
Just a great work of art. And I will say it was a bit of a journey. So one of the things I would say to filmmakers is there were bumps in the road in something that was so successful as Chasing Amy. So there was a period where it needed a significant increase in post-production. And Sav had cut a deal with a post-production house to end up doing more work on a deferred basis. And as really the original investor of Chasing Amy, economically, I was going to be subordinated and crammed down. Now, they could do that. That's in the documents. But it's interesting, Sav felt badly about it, right?
Yeah.
That here sort of the original investor was going to end up being under a lot of deferred comp. And I said to Sav, look, I have one goal, make a great movie, right? And what you want as producers is partners who their only incentive is to sort of make the best movie you possibly can. And what's interesting is Sav said, sort of what can I do for you? And I said, well, there are a lot of like non-economic things that would be great and would make me feel good. So we ended up having me as an executive producer with a single card. And I said, you know what, leave my name up longer. Just hang it out there. And he did. And not only did he do that, I didn't even ask for this, but my name is first on the poster.
Oh, hell yeah.
Under executive, right. So there are actually things that you can do that make your investors feel good that don't cost you any money.
Yeah, I love that.
Right. So,
yeah, and he also, took the time to be like, I do feel bad about this, like communicate that, but like, can I do something for you? Like, I love that.
Right. Yeah, no, it's been, so it really is a dialogue, and every film is a journey. Look, every film is late and over budget, except the Escaping Ohio short. But it's something that you need to have a dialogue and a good relationship with your investors, who are also really collaborators and producers.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are you evaluating when you say yes? Is it just, you just obviously said like it's just the filmmaker, but is there anything specifically financially you're looking at?
So, I think the sweet spot really is micro-budget features, sort of that $300,000 budget. Films so I'm pitched a lot of like $2 million budget, $5 million budget. My personal angel investment is not going to move the needle there. It's not going to get the movie done. And, I think it's a little ambitious for some of the, younger filmmakers who have not produced features in the past, don't have studio relationships. And I think what's interesting about sort of that $250,000 to $300,000 level is that you can do what you did with the Escaping Ohio feature, where you have sort of a lead investor like me, and then raised capital around it. And shorts now have gotten so expensive that shorts are being made for, $60,000, $80,000, $100,000, that you're much better trying to stretch to a larger number to get a feature where it can be sold.
I agree.
Because a short can't be sold. There's no way to monetize a short.
And you have such more like leverage and just like time with a feature that it can like live on and, do great things. Like I feel like you just get so much more out of that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I will say that, sometimes, the scripts evolve over time. Like, for example, I am so excited about Seaside. Seaside, we wrapped in November. It's a film that I'm doing with Stacey Malton. I have probably what I think is my breakthrough role in that film, which, she and Jay DeYunker, the co-writer, wrote for me, which is also one of the benefits of, having a 8-year relationship with somebody, is when they think about collaborating, they also think, what would be good for you.
Yeah. I had you in mind when I was writing Lenny.
There you go.
Because we knew we had already talked about you working in it. And so I'm like,
exactly.
Well, where can he be if he's not going to be, one of the guys that she's targeting?
Right.
But yeah, anyways, right. Seaside.
Right. It turns out there are a lot of 50, 60-year-old bearded short men, right? that are in these movies.
Oh, I wouldn't call you short.
Right. Thank you. I appreciate that. But it's interesting. The original script for Seaside, I have to say, I didn't love, and
I normally
yes.
Okay, I gave significant
I don't
want to break
notes.
the news.
No. I gave significant notes, which I almost never do.
Yeah.
I would say I have a very generous view of scripts and how they evolve, and sort of what is the log line, right? Do I generally think it's an interesting project? But to Stacey and Jay's credit, they went back, and 2 months later, it was a spectacular script.
Oh, wow.
So it went from like, I don't know how I feel about this, but I'm going to do it. I actually told them at the time, but I'm going to do it, but I don't know how I feel about it, to one of the best scripts I've read. And I think it's going to be a phenomenal movie. And I play a bar owner of a karaoke bar where I sing. So it also, some of my jingle singing
cool.
I sing as well as act. And about half the movie is in the bar.
Oh, wow.
And Jay DeYunker is the star. And it's a sort of queer romance in a bar around Christmas.
I love that. I also saw Katie from School of Rock is in it.
Yes,
so
exactly.
My child self was very excited by that.
Right. I think you will love Seaside.
Oh, cool. I'm excited to see it. I told Stacey I would love to have her on if she comes out to LA. So maybe we'll talk about it.
Great.
Let's see. With the creative and financial risk, do you ever expect or want how do you look at the filmmakers in terms of being responsible with that?
So I think the most important thing, and anybody who has ever worked with me knows this, I want a K1. Because if you're going to lose money in a film, you want to be able to take a tax write-off.
Yeah.
And it's actually amazing to me how poor most, novice filmmakers, how the paperwork is done, right? It's typically some assignment agreement, a 1-page, and oftentimes they haven't thought about the accounting. Not that it's something that they don't think about, but they just don't know that you sort of need some kind of documentation. And actually, Escaping Ohio through WeFunder generates the
Yes.
K1.
Well, I think that's why I was really grateful to use WeFunder for my first feature. And that's not like why I went to that route. I was inspired by some other filmmakers who have used it. And I just liked the platform to be able to put myself out there for the first time is like using, because I had, so much fun and like success with the Seed and Spark platform. And it was very similar to that, but investors. So that was like my main reasoning. But I loved that, like, I felt like it was an easy step into like, it made you, file with the SEC, do all this paperwork, set up the LLC. Like it kind of required all these steps that you should be doing on your own that now I can do on my own for Candy because I had that infrastructure and that like learning curve when doing the WeFunder.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's something that I always talk about. And actually, I have a production company, Act 2 NYC Films, with Stacy and Moore. So it's a partnership with besties. And one of the nice things about a production company is that to the extent that there's less infrastructure, you have a partnership that is investing in a project.
So how do you like to be approached by filmmakers? I know that like you have, these collaborations, so it's already so hard for you to take on other films, but you have done it before. You've invested in Ramona Midlife.
Yep.
Is that it actually?
Well, so interesting. So Ramona Midlife, Stacy and Mars are associate producers, and they introduced
they are?
me. And they introduced
How did
me.
I miss that?
And they introduced me to Brooke.
Oh, there you go.
Right,
So
but Brooke's doing a new project, which she's going to show me. So sort of once you're in the family, I will definitely sort of look at your projects. I think it's really referral based because I get so many blind submissions now. So if I were to get a script and it said, Jessica Michael Davis recommended that I speak with you, or
which I would say, like, I would give you a text at least.
Right.
Like,
Are you interested?
So don't just like go out and lie and make up
or something
things.
from Stacey Moulton or Mars or Sav. So somebody that I know, that's probably the strongest introduction. Others that I'll look at will be, I saw Escaping Ohio, and my script is very similar. That it is designed for the teen market. It's, so something where they're referencing my work and why
they enjoyed your work.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Are you looking at genre at all when you're considering things, or?
So I love horror. Right, which we've done. Right?
Yes, and we're diving even more into. There's going to be more blood.
I've actually written a horror script with Mars.
Right.
During COVID, we worked on a cannibalism horror script together. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Where we torture a vegan and there's cannibalism and
I didn't know the vegan
horror
was being tortured. I thought.
Oh no, the vegan was being tortured sadly with real meat products.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely horror for sure. But the economics for horror, I think, are the best in sort of the in the film space, right?
Yes.
Because there's an actual market to it, and it can be done on like a low budget. Like for me, like Barbarian is such a home run, right? In a room, few actors, low budget.
Yeah. I mean, I
really scary.
I can and probably will do a whole episode on Zach Kreger at some point.
But it's like,
I'm obsessed.
wow, that was like that's like the perfect horror movie from a financial perspective, investor perspective.
That was still a $4.5 million budget though, but he had the Whitest Kids under him and some other connections, but still a low budget when you think about like studio in general. And his
but
next
if you
one
can,
was
if you can put a handful of actors in a room, you're going to make money,
yes.
right? I mean, that's gonna.
Well, you don't
work.
really need like a name, like a big name to draw a fan base to horror, right?
Right.
And that's something I'm actually like learning with Candy too. Like even though we are making offers for this male lead, a lot of feedback I'm getting too is that like horror, you don't really need the name. It's more the genre that's the sell than the name. Because there have been so many horror blow-ups that like haven't had recognizable names, like Talk to Me, which A24 ended up taking. That's the first one that came to mind, but I know that there's a ton more.
But I also think what's interesting, so in sort of a different area, Escaping Ohio really had an audience. That was one of the things that attracted me, which is it was not a romance with a lot of sex. It was something that your 12-year-old could watch, your 14-year-old could watch, right? So I felt like there was a wholesome nature to the story that's very marketable.
Yeah, cool. How do you prefer to be pitched? Like literally, like do you like someone to just send you like a cold email or like a referral email, or like do you want to have like just a quick intro to someone and then have like talk over lunch or coffee?
I think, definitely not lunch or coffee, and definitely not a phone call.
Okay,
I would say an email.
Yeah.
And I find the most useful thing, frankly, is the pitch deck, because to read a script is a real investment. And I probably have a backlog about like 5 scripts that I haven't read that are all from friends and referrals. And I'm like, I'm going to kind of get to the script.
You wouldn't even get to a cold email one.
Right. Because when you're actually working on a project, you're going to read a script, several versions of it. Right. So that's a lot of time. And if you're kind of focused on what you're doing. So, this year I already have sort of 4 films, lined up. Snare just wrapped, so I'm kind of done with that one. But I have 3 more films. Pancake Skank, which you mentioned.
Next
with
month.
Sav Rogers,
well, actually,
right?
this month.
This month in 2 weeks. Right, we're filming in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And then Candy.
Yeah, which I will say I've been holding off to send you the script because I literally just like yesterday uploaded, because I just keep updating the version on Google Drive, and I'm pretty sure it was like the 31st version.
Right.
Because I just granted, sometimes it's just like little changes
and
here and there.
You know what I'm going to tell you? I'm going to say when I rap on Pancake Skank, I will read it.
Okay.
Right. So
well, and I'm ready to send it
soon. So
yeah. No, I just worked with a stunt coordinator really quickly about a couple of things, and honestly it broke open this one scene, and it just I love how scripts evolve. Like I'm such a nerd about that, like talking about kind of how Seaside 2, I feel like I had it in a really good place after me and Mindy finished, but even like the 5 months following, like I've really have been like refining things. I had script consultants, talking to collaborators already, like it's really like come together even more beautifully. Like I just love the script process. It's so fun, but I'm excited to send it to you and see what you think.
Right. But I think a pitch deck really gives you a sense of the mood,
which that hasn't changed since I sent it to you. Like
I trust you.
I was like the vision I've had.
I've already invested in it.
I know.
So you don't need to sell me. I believe the script will be great, but but I think a pitch deck you can very quickly understand. What the film is about.
The tone,
right?
The info, yeah. I think pitch decks are like so crucial.
Yeah.
What do you think something filmmakers tend to overthink about a pitch, or is there something you think they don't think enough about?
So I think they overthink everything, right? They overthink everything, but actually the accounting piece and the K1 and the structure,
which is
which is so important, right?
Yeah.
If you have somebody who's a professional investor in film projects, and I think that. There is an optimism to the amount of money they're going to be able to raise. That so many of the films that I've looked at that have actually gotten made, I was pitched a $2 million budget, then they ended up doing $1 million budget with a tax credit, and they ended up doing a rewrite and a $300,000 version and it got done. So you need to think about. Sort of, is it going to be individual investors, or can you get a studio to back you to actually sort of write a significant check to help produce it? Yeah.
If a filmmaker only has one shot to get your attention, what do you wish they would focus on?
Well, I will say, I do have some people who approach me as like, I have an incredible role for you in this film. And then I think about, potentially investing. And I will say, one of the things that surprised me is I have turned down films where there's an incredible acting role, but I just didn't like the script, which has surprised me a little bit. So I think there does, I do have to show some interest.
Yeah, in the overall.
Sort of the overall script.
Yeah, is there something like specific about it that you would say that like didn't speak to you, or?
Just really the subject matter.
Okay.
I mean, some of them, one had to do with like depression and suicide. I think an interesting film. Yeah. But
well, I mean, obviously everyone has their own interests as well. I do like that all your films usually are like some sort of like female forward or trans forward, or like with besties, they're always like pushing the boundaries in terms of like exploring sexuality and things like that. Both my films are very much like female lead. Obviously, Candy is very like.
So I do think, and I come out of the hedge fund business and the arbitrage business. I think there's a huge arbitrage between talent in the queer community and their ability to get funded, right? So that, one of the things that was very interesting about the studio, which is where I took my acting classes, is I would say 90% of the students were queer and probably 20% were transgender. So I had a lot of exposure to filmmakers sort of, who were queer filmmakers. And to me, those were very interesting projects. Right. And it was very tough for them to get any funding. And in fact, when I started, I kind of gave a little money to almost anybody in that acting class who sort of said, I'm doing this project. And in fact, in 2022, I had a project, Fraud, that was, written by a transgender filmmaker that premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Was that the same
Dana
year as
Levinson,
Chasing
Amy was 2023.
Oh, got it.
So I had sort of two films,
back.
right, with transgender filmmakers in 2022 and 2023.
Very cool. Do you use your hedge fund business or history to when you're thinking about filmmaking? Does any of that come into play?
I think only when it relates to documents. So definitely documents. I'm a complete document nerd.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yes. So I'll look at sort of the different agreements. One of the things I always do is ask for a most favored nations clause. And the reason is that if I'm coming in as an executive producer, if it's you, if it's Sav, if it's Stacey Malton, if it's Mars, I'm likely to be the first investor in the project. Well, if you have trouble raising funds, the next investor in the project is going to get a better deal. So I want to make sure that everything about my deal sort of is going to be consistent with, the best terms given my specific investment. And I think that's something that many of the filmmakers had not seen before. And they're happy to do it, right?
Yeah,
they're like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. And that's something we see from the acting perspective. A lot of times, the bigger names will ask for most favored nations for the rate.
Right.
If, a bigger star comes in and they get a better rate than that person also does. That actually was a conversation too with when I was getting the music rights, since I had to do all the music licensing for Escaping Ohio for distribution. That was things that came up too. Yeah. But yeah, it's something that you don't really think you're going to have to do so much of when you go into a film, but I was already aware of it just because I did, I'm a podcast and video nerd in terms of I will go down all the rabbit holes and listen to other filmmakers and all, their successes, their failures, what they learn. And so kind of what I'm hoping this podcast does for people too is oh, I didn't think of that. And so I knew when I was going into the feature, how much business there was going to be, but I just, there's, I think a lot more than people consider from start to finish.
Right.
The distribution delivery, there was so much in terms of documents, having to turn that over, all the legal things with just music rights or even having someone's face on screen. We had that small clip from Dazed and Confused.
Yes.
That was a whole thing too of having to pay those actors who just, were in 12 seconds of that clip. And then obviously also licensing the clip. And yeah, there's a whole thing. A lot of document stuff.
Right. And I will say that, I've been learning along the way. For example, Candy, we have a development deal. I had no idea that is actually something that gets done. There are actually terms that people, use when you're doing seed investing in a development deal prior to having funding.
Yeah. That's essentially what studios have, right?
Right.
Is they usually will do a development deal or a 3-picture deal or something with filmmakers. And so, yeah, when I came to you, it's why not an independent development deal?
Right.
Yeah, because we had this IP. I have to pay the author. There was a whole thing to get the film even beginning to the script stage.
Right. So just on Candy, right, it came out of Betty Bites Back. And I have to say, Betty Bites Back was one of the great experiences in terms of filmmaking, because it's a very short, incredibly low budget. what happened, and you probably remember this, is we were having drinks because I was introducing you to one of my friends, and your producer had just backed out.
Yes. Well, that was just a whole thing where I was about to make that short with that person who was clearly just not going to
happen.
Well, also just like not a good person.
And I said, send me the material. And by the way, have you cast the doctor? You had not cast the doctor. And I came back, I said, look, I'll do it. I'll be the doctor. And we took the Escaping Ohio crew, right? So we had all worked together. The three of us, the three actors, had all worked together on Escaping Ohio.
And we had just wrapped the pickup shoot like just a few weeks prior to that.
And it was one room in a dentist's office, right, in Brooklyn, and very, very low budget. And it really feels like a sizzle. And that is, I think, what short films should be. I mean, I think you should not sort of overproduce short films.
I mean, I don't mind sharing. That was after post-production, I think it was $5,000, but like the production itself, I remember was $2,800.
Right. No,
just like having all the crew, the location, that was such a quick shoot too, because we were just on a roll with that, because since we just wrapped Escaping Ohio, and so I think it was a 6-hour shoot. We had 8 hours planned, but we wrapped early. Right. Yeah, it was great.
And actually, in terms of like non-economic benefits, that was a production of Act 2 NYC Films, but also with Escaping Ohio, the feature, you didn't have a production company. And so Act 2 NYC Films is the production company for the feature. Right.
I mean, is that something you're considering too when you're looking at projects?
I think it's an added benefit, right? It's it's not going to make me do something or not do something.
Okay.
But obviously that expands, my brand. And, it's something that is sort of an added credit.
Do you think about brand as an EP?
I absolutely think about brand.
Yeah? What would you define yours as certain, or is it growing or evolving?
Well, look, I hope my brand is I am a very supportive, collaborative
I would say that.
Producer.
Yes.
Right. But I do think about the brand of the people that I'm investing with and collaborating with. And I think they're all, Besties Makes Movies, you, Sav, they are all within the female forward, queer, universe.
Yeah. Well, I'm just curious, like, what if we ventured out of, like, if I did like a studio action film, do you think you would still be interested?
Well, I think so. That's interesting. That's where, I was going to say, that's where being your original seed investor hopefully works out.
Because now you get the added benefit.
Well, right. You'll be like, Jeff, they don't need your money. They don't need you as a producer. And by the way, they're not going to cast you, but I'm going to cast you because when Brad Pitt is in the diner, you're going to be sitting next to him. You're not going to have any lines, but I'm going to put you in it. When you do the Marvel movie and Superman is getting a hot dog from a hot dog vendor in Gotham, you're going to be I'm going to make sure you're the hot dog vendor, right? Yeah. So, who knows? It's a long life.
Yeah, I feel like I've obviously been really lucky to start my career with you, and I think that's how it's been with the other two as well, or four. Sometimes I put Besties Make Movies into one
together,
person.
Right, exactly.
But I love that it's kind of evolved, and I feel like I've witnessed that in other EP director or filmmaker EP type of or investor relationships. Is they continue to do those projects again and again, which sometimes can be, what's the word I'm looking for? Like disappointing or disencouraging to a filmmaker if they feel like it's hard to get in. But also say is that you also started from somewhere, right? So it's they could also find their own Jeff, their own version of Jeff, who they kind of build together and continue to grow those relationships in films with. And
I will say that, for me, it's really exciting to be with young creative people. So retirement, one of the problems with retirement is, you're playing golf with peers, right? That's not that interesting. It's really interesting to come to LA, shoot a film, go on a podcast, go to Las Vegas to film a short, go to Brooklyn to make movies. So it's really been a wonderful
Well, it's a whole
community.
nother career after your career.
Act two, exactly. Act two.
Right, yes.
Right, my second act.
If you're enjoying the next film and want to help us keep making the show, we're now accepting tax-deductible donations through our partner, the Alliance of Women Directors. This helps us keep sharing honest conversation, insights, and practical tools free and accessible to artists. The link is in the show notes, or you can visit allianceofwomendirectors.org/fiscal-sponsorship. This episode is brought to you by executive producer Jeffrey Weber. When you look back at the projects that you're proudest of, is there something that they all have in common or like an underlying theme?
Well, I think what I'm proud of is I think every single one of them would not have gotten done without me.
Yeah.
That, I look back, I was the first investor in, other than Triple Threat, which Stacey and Mars did, where I invested during post-production because I didn't know them when they were doing principal photography. I'm typically the first investor. And the first investor is always the hardest investor, right? Because you can say, Jeff Weber from Chasing Amy, Seaside, is part of, this is our fourth film together, right? That's meaningful.
Yeah.
Because what a fourth film says is I had a really good experience with the first three, right? Because investors don't come back four times because, you screwed them, right? So the fact that we're doing a fourth film together, I think tells other collaborators, you know what? Jess is probably a good person to do a movie with.
Yeah.
So I'm very proud of that because so many of the films are very special films, and I take a lot of pride in that.
I love that. That's always my proudest thing of anything I've done is that my collaborators want to work with me again. That's the only thing that I take forward is awesome. I continue to build these relationships and cater to them, and I love that. It's all about the people you're working with and have around you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm very proud of that as well. Okay, we're going to just go ahead and jump to my last question.
Okay.
What advice would you give to someone making their next film?
So I think the number one thing would be, pick your collaborator very carefully, right, who you're partnering with, and then trust them, right? And it's very tough to let go. And it's very tough not to feel like, somehow you need to change the vision of the filmmaker. And, one of the things that really I love about sort of how I think about film is it's really broadened my world. There's so many things I had no idea about before filmmaking. And it's just sort of trusting that the vision of the filmmaker is really what's important and the purity of letting them kind of run with it. And, one of the things is, so Mars and I have been writing together since COVID. And what I love about Mars is we will be on a Zoom and I have no idea what's going to come out of their mouth. And it's nothing I ever would have thought of. So this idea of validating a different perspective, I have a very traditional background. And I think that's not that interesting. So to sort of empower and fund creators, filmmakers, brings me a lot of joy. And I think, you see it in the end product. So pick
100%.
carefully and then trust them and let them run with it.
Yeah. Okay, wait. I just want to pick a little bit more of that because is there something, because I keep asking questions from a filmmaker perspective, right? But anyone who might be interested in being an EP or honestly down the line, I hope to be in a similar position where I can also help filmmakers coming up. Right. What is it? Is there a gut feeling that you're trusting, or because I know that
yes.
we're always...
I think there is a chemistry that you either click with somebody or you don't.
Right.
But I think it's really a hunger. It's you probably don't remember Jessica Michael Davis from 5 years ago. I do. And you were making this movie and you were leaving Ohio.
Yeah.
And, Sav Rogers, that's Sav's life. Stacey Malton, Mars. It's filmmakers who are obsessed with actually, they're going to make the movie.
Yeah.
Right?
With
or without me,
yeah.
They're going to do it. And I think that that conviction is just so important. And it's kind of that passion that I recognize in sort of a young, hungry kind of filmmaker. You know, I'm going to embarrass you slightly, but you know, you were a bartender at a cigar bar, and you got virtually all of your cigar bar clients to invest in your film, right? That's really impressive. So, you know, that scrappiness, and it's really a scrappiness. You know, I remember when you redecorated your grandmother's, what was it, a grandmother's bedroom?
Yeah, my Nana's attic, complete 180.
Right, to be Sam's,
Yeah, to be Sam's
bedroom.
Yep.
I can't tell you how many times with Besties Makes Movies that Stacy and Mars, you know, ended up taking what was a private space and turned it into a set.
Yeah. Well, Snare just did that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Isn't like Sonia's house and Mars' house?
Sonia's house and Mars' house. I'm not going to say what they've turned into.
Yeah, no
but
spoilers.
100%. In fact, I was at Mars' house last night, and it looks like a set. And look, when I was younger, you know, I was hungry to do things, to make things. And I think that
you recognize
that's what I recognize in filmmakers. But I think everybody who I've invested with and been an EP for, I think are special filmmakers, and I think they will actually make it. I actually have tremendous faith in sort of the long version.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here. It's so special to have you in LA.
Well, thank you for having me.
As soon as I made this
has been
podcast,
fun.
I was like, we need to talk on it. I was so excited to begin Candy with you. And I will say, like how you were saying in terms of like the legitimacy of being, you know, having someone who's been on 3 of my projects already and continues to work with me, and also just someone who believes in it, in the concept in the beginning, it's brought so much momentum from, you know, the very start. So I will always appreciate you, and I'm excited for our journey together.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Of course.